How you guys doing? My name is Frank James Bailey. Of course, you probably know me as the guy who wrote the Turkana comic book series, and I wrote this novel. It's a romantic comedy novel called The Taming of April. You can find all my comics and my book on Turkana.com. Now, before I begin the video, I want to remind you to please subscribe to my channel. Give this video a like and make a comment as well, because every little bit helps. I really appreciate it. Alright, now let me get to the point of the video. As you know, I'm a comic book writer and a published author. My comics are only in a few comic book stores, not many. Most of the time, I sell my comics through my website. Now, it's not to say I haven't tried to sell my comics through brick and mortar stores. Most of the time, they want to do something called consignment, which basically means I give them my comics, and if they sell them, then they'll give me a portion of the money that they sell them for. Yeah, I don't do that. I sell my comics to a comic book store at cost, so they can sell it for the price of the comic that's on top. They're still making pretty good money off the comics that I sell them to them. But if I do it this way, I don't have to worry, gee, is my comic selling or not? And even if they only bought one comic of each of my comics, they're not out that much, since they're buying them at what cost me to print them. However, there's a lot of creators that I know that don't really care about brick and mortar stores anymore. Yes, it's great to go to a comic book store and have that excitement of feeling of going into a comic book store and getting the comics and the toys that you like from that comic book store. But this is 2023. There are a lot of people out there who really don't have any of their comics in comic book stores. They sell most of their comics directly to you through their own website or Kickstarter. Matter of fact, Kickstarter has been huge for the comic book world. I know a lot of people who directly sell to their audience through Kickstarter and don't really care if their books are in a comic book store or not. Now, granted, these are comics or graphic novels, and some of them have pretty girls on the cover with big boobs. Some of them do very, very well, while other comics do okay, and some of them don't get anything at all. It's all in how you market yourself on Kickstarter. But the whole point is, you don't need to be in a comic book store to sell your comics anymore. You can do it all on your own if you have the time, the money, and the patience, and the know-how to do it. And let me take this one step further. Most people who are writers know about the New York Times bestsellers list. You have to be with a publisher to have your book on the New York Times bestsellers list. If you're with a publisher, your book will most likely be in a bookstore as well, like Barnes & Noble or any small-time bookstore. If you're with a publisher, you can probably get your book into a bookstore. On the other hand, just like I talked about with comics, some people don't really care about the New York Times bestsellers list. They sell directly to you, their consumer, their customer, or their fans. There are some authors on Kickstarter who are doing very, very well. They're selling their books to you directly. I assume their book will probably not be in a bookstore because they're selling it to you. Now, granted, not every single author can be successful on Kickstarter. You gotta know how to market yourself, and you gotta know your audience. But the point is, your comics don't really need to be in a comic book store anymore. And if you're an author, your books don't really need to be in a bookstore anymore. You can sell directly to your readers through Kickstarter, IndieGoGo, or your own website. In other words, when I eventually start a campaign for my wrestling books, and people who are really into wrestling can't wait to see this, I'm not really going to care if it's going to go to the New York Times bestsellers list or not, because the people who really want to see it are going to buy it through Kickstarter. Now, to be honest, it would be great if it was with a publisher and it was on the New York Times bestsellers list. But on the other hand, if this turns out really well and I sell to the right audience and I make, pretty good money selling these wrestling books to fans of wrestling, I don't really care if it hits the New York Times bestsellers list, because the people who want to read it, I'm selling it to them directly through Kickstarter. So now I'm asking you this question. If you're a fan of comics, do you still go to the comic book store and buy comics? And if you're a fan of books, do you still go to a bookstore and buy books? Or do you buy directly from the author themselves, whether it be through their website or Kickstarter? I want to know. Comment below the video and let me hear from you, because I'd love to know what your thought is on this.